Welcome back, everyone, to another Poppin' Often with Lofton Reacts. That's not a real thing, but I should coin that. Copyright don't take. This is where I'm going to be reacting to content that Throne and Liberty puts out. If you love talking, discussing, sharing ideas with me or people in the comments below, make sure you subscribe. That way you are notified when these videos drop, giving my honest opinions, and I love talking about it, and I love seeing what the dev team is going to do. So we're looking at Tico Talks today. Tico is about to start talking, and yeah, you want to see the full video, link in the description below. You guys do know I pause when I do reacts, so watch that first if you want to. Let's roll. I'm going to try not to pause too much though. Let's go. Tico.
What's up, gamers? Welcome to Tico Talks Throne and Liberty. My name's Tico, and I'm the Globalization Design Manager at Amazon Games for Throne and Liberty.
That's a lot.
And I'm here to give you some updates on the game,
Globalization Designer Manager or Design Manager? Whew.
I've been spending a ton of time in the game, having a blast with all of you, and now that we just released our Haunted Harvest Halloween update, I'm even more excited.
Yep.
I hope everyone has had a chance to check out the event. The limited time Haunted Labyrinth Dungeon is so fun, and I love seeing all the clever things people are doing with their outfits to get in the festive mood. Personally,
I love the event. I love the cosmetics of the event. I love how the pacing of the event. I know within comments and in my Discord as well, a lot of you guys have been having negative experiences with it. An event dungeon is supposed to be fun, but people are making rooms for high gear score, which is fine. I think in a party finder scenario, it's okay to say, I want this gear for fast run. Cool. But I do know I hear some of you guys saying that people leave the dungeon or people kick you out of the dungeon when you get to the boss for some reason. Like, there's a lot of horror stories. And so I really want to know if they're going to do anything about that. Not just for the Halloween, but just co-op dungeons in general. It's one of my funnest things to do in the game, personally. Let's roll.
Let's talk a bit about how things have been going and what we're planning in the coming months. First, I want to give a huge thank you to the millions of players that have joined us so far on this journey. We wanted to make sure that crossplay was enabled from day one, and it's been awesome to see that investment pay off.
Love that crossplay.
This great community has grown so quickly in this first month, and we're just getting started. Of course, any game launch of this magnitude has lots of craziness that comes with it.
Thanks.
We've been in constant contact with NCSoft to address player feedback, and we hope you've seen some of that in the last few weeks.
For sure.
So let's talk more about how we're moving forward.
One of the things that I had feedback about, and I don't know if it was just part of my voice, sometimes I like to think that I'm heard, but maybe a lot of you guys have been saying the same thing. Who knows? I just like to feel important sometimes. But so something that I really wanted was something like the mentor roulette, where you can queue into a random dungeon and just help anybody that you decide to pop into. They added that literally the patch after, and again, I'm pretty sure that was probably in the works already. But I really love that, and I love like the steps that they take and the transparency that they have when they take those steps. And so it's always nice to say it's always nice to hear a developer say, you know, we hear you guys and we're working, right? You hear that a lot, but only some developers actually hear the community and tries their best to do things versus just saying, we hear you guys and don't do anything about it. Throne and Liberty has been definitely doing things about it, whether you're an experienced player or a new player, and they're so transparent about it, and I really love that about it right now. Now, I'm not saying I see Throne and Liberty with rose-tinted glasses. There are some things that needs improvements. Obviously, everything needs improvements. There's nothing perfect in the world at all, but to see them take the right steps to getting to that type of area is huge, and it's something that I really love to see from any developer.
Let's start with a topic we all hate and every MMO deals with: bots.
Oh, facts.
The battle against bots is well underway, and I want to tell you a bit about what we're doing to attack bots.
Bro, they've been clapping bots, man.
First, we're continuing to improve our detection algorithms and are now running those daily to ban bots as quickly as possible.
On-site banned.
Second, we're attacking the areas in which bots can operate and continuing to look for ways to make it difficult for bots to do business. But we want to do that while minimizing the impact to real player experience.
What I would like to see is like a report feature in mail, because I get mail from a lot of bots saying that, hey, Lucent, buy Lucent. And it would just be nice, even if it doesn't work, it would still be nice to know that like I'm helping in the grand scheme of things rather than just deleting it. You know what I mean? I would just really love a report feature for someone who sends that type of stuff, so that way we can help cleanse the world, the Silesium, as they say, of bots, because I think it'd be helpful. But I think they're doing a great job anyway. I've been seeing a lot less of them.
We have some plans related to the auction house to impose protections to limit bots' impact there. We will share more on that once we are able, but can't reveal too much detail that could be used to circumvent our safeguards.
Right.
Third, we're actively actioning players who engage in RMT behavior. Participating in RMT negatively impacts several aspects of the game, including empowering bot activity, compromising the hard work of players who follow the rules, and more. We will continue to action players with more severe punishments as appropriate, including negative loosen balances, full auction house lockouts, suspensions, and bans, as we have zero tolerance for this type of behavior.
Bro, I like the way Tico delivers information, bro. Tico look like he'll and I mean this with respect, Tico, if you're watching it. But Tico looks like he'll knock you out. Bro, I love it. I love it. He's serious about it. He's like, bro, I bench 1080, bro. Y'all like, he benches 1,080 pounds. Bro, he benches 1080 and he will ban bots on site. Don't touch him. Don't test them. I love Tico.
Next thing I want to talk to you about is world bosses, which are garnering a lot of discussion in the community. So I want to take some time to discuss that.
Definitely need to talk about world bosses.
Let's talk about loot drops. Many of you have been feeling that world bosses have often left you feeling disappointed because you don't feel there's a meaningful chance to acquire gear during these events.
That's true. I think a lot of the annoyance of world bosses in terms of loot drops really fall onto the healers and the tank players of the game. If you don't know, at least this is what I've been hearing. They haven't released any documents saying this, but for the most part of what I've been hearing is that world bosses generate loot based off of how much damage your party does, the contribution. So if a party is full DPS and you have 2 tanks or 2 healers or, you know, any formation of tanks and healers in your group, you're most likely not getting the loot. And so either they will need to make it so that way you still can get loot even if you don't contribute a lot. And I think that's better because I don't think that a developer should ever focus on one group. If you got people that want to stack their gear out to the max, they need to be rewarded for it. However, there still needs to be something for people that just can't do that or don't want to do that or it's too stressful, whatever it may be. There should be something for them too. So let's see what he says.
To improve this, we're going to do 2 things.
Oh?
First, we're going to increase the number of portals that appear for peace mode bosses.
Okay.
The portals will be generated based on player counts, but on average, I would expect you to see at least 1 more portal per boss.
That's actually really good.
This should help spread players out across more fights, giving more opportunities to acquire drops.
Right.
The second thing is we're introducing a new chest drop that has a chance to be included in your participation reward after the boss dies.
I literally just said that. Yo, me and Tico, look, we here with ours. Me and Tico here with ours. That's literally what I wanted. Cool.
This chest will allow you to select one of any of the epic items the boss can drop, which we hope will also give players the agency of choosing a reward that's most relevant to them. All items from this chest will be untradeable, though the non-weapon items.
I just want to say, not being toxic, y'all know this is set up and staged because y'all know when there's world bosses, your screen is taking snapshots. It is not 60 FPS, it is 1 FPS. I'm sorry I had to say it.
Can be lithographed.
It looks really beautiful though whenever I see them play it.
If the player chooses. Players can expect both of these changes to be live following our maintenance on October 31st. We've also been paying attention to the impact that the Eclipse skill is having on peace mode bosses occurring within Abyss dungeons.
Oh yeah, the Eclipse crap. Dude, they definitely need to address that. I think it's a valid tactic, but they need to address it somehow. Again, try to work with both sides rather than forcing one side to the other. Let's see what he says.
We think that this is disrupting the expected flow of gameplay for individuals attempting to participate in peace mode bosses, which are meant to be a PvP-free experience for those players. So we're making an adjustment so that when peace mode bosses spawn in dungeons, there will be an additional new portal outside the dungeon that will take players directly to the safe zone inside the dungeon.
Wait. Let me. He said they're gonna put an additional portal outside of the dungeon to take you. Bruh, even if that isn't a conflict, like even if that isn't a conflict click skip, I can't even speak right now, I'm excited. Even if that's not a conflict skip, I wonder if that's gonna work for every world boss that's in the dungeons. Because I hate running to the world boss, especially when I don't know where it's at. Well, I mean, I do now because I've been playing for a while. But you know, when you first go there, you don't know where anything's at. So it'd be nice to just get teleported there. That's like really huge, and I really like that. I also wonder if that's gonna help, is it Junibi? I think that's how you pronounce it. I wonder if that's gonna help you skip the rain mechanic. Because the rain needs to drop for you to get into that dungeon. So if this just pops you in and skips you, that'd be dope. And I think it needs to do that really, because sometimes the boss will spawn, but you can't get in. So I think that's necessary.
This way they can enter the peace mode boss as expected without passing through areas that may have turned into a conflict zone due to the Eclipse skill.
Okay, I like that.
This change is expected to go live in mid-November. The Eclipse skill itself will continue to change the dungeon into conflict mode, as always.
Okay,
Finally,
so they're
for
still
bosses,
doing
there's
something.
been talk about how contribution works in relation to the loot drops.
Oh, yes.
Later this week, we will be releasing an article that defines and describes how loot distribution works across all content types.
And I literally just said that. I was like, they haven't really given us anything that says specifically what's going on with loot drops. It's just kind of hearsay from players to player to player. So I can't wait for this. Again, I really love the transparency that they have.
But I want to briefly touch on this specifically for Conflict World bosses. With the recent change locking boss loot to the original owner for 10 minutes, some guilds have been wondering what the value of PvP is in these events. The spirit of the Conflict World boss is that guilds are fighting to control the area to allow their guild to damage the boss and raise their contribution, thus increasing their chances to get better loot. In addition to increasing your own contribution though, you can also decrease other guilds' contribution. In conflict mode, you do this by killing players from rival guilds, which will reduce that player's contribution by 70% each death.
You see, that's something I didn't know personally. Like when you die, obviously you get like a penalty, but they didn't really explain, at least when I was looking at it, they didn't explain like what the actual penalty was.
So reducing another guild's contribution increases your relative contribution. So it's a major factor in determining the loot that can drop for you. We are working on introducing some contextual UI indicators of contribution amounts.
Definitely need that.
We hope that this will help guilds be more strategic about which opponents to focus their attacks on.
Definitely need
Moving
that.
on from
I'm not really a huge guild versus guild person. I'm still building up my, if you guys don't have a guild and you're in Benediction, join my guild if you want to. Club Poppin, I'll have both the server and the name of the guild in the description below. But yeah, a huge part of guild versus guild I haven't really dove into hard enough yet, but PvP in these zones is something that I have dove into, and I would think that the UI indicators would help tremendously for a lot of the stuff for sure.
From world bosses, I want to talk about co-op dungeons. We have made 3 recent changes to matchmaking for dungeons.
Okay, wait a second. Co-op changes. All right, this is popping off this expertise. I love co-op dungeons. Here's my wish list for co-op dungeons. First off, there needs to be a penalty of some sort for players leaving a dungeon. Whether you're a new player and it's too stressful so you leave, or you're an experienced player that partied into a group of new players and you're like, forget this, I don't want to play with scrubs. That's a horrible attitude for matchmaking. And if you want to have that attitude, you need to go to Party Finder. Find people that actually know what they're doing, so that way you're not ruining it for 5 other players or more if you do this consistently. This is why there should be a penalty or a lockout of some kind to deter the consistent behavior of leaving. Not just, oh, I left because I had to go, I left because this dungeon was taking too long, I left because, that's fine. But to consistently leave back to back to back, there is no excuse for that. That's what I want to see in terms of that. The second thing I wanted to see is I want them to hide the dungeon from the randomized dungeon roulette thing that they have going on, that I really like, by the way. The thing is, when the dungeon pops up, the name pops up. So players are like, I don't want to do that one, and they'll cancel the queue. And they'll keep doing this until they get a queue until they get a dungeon that they want to get the box. They need to hide that dungeon so that if you're queuing for the randomized dungeon, it's exactly that. You don't know what it is until you get in. And then they need to penalize the person for leaving if they decide to leave because it's not a dungeon that they want. Again, you're queuing into something intentionally. So there should not be a get out of jail free card every time you don't want to deal with it. It was kind of on you to queue into it. The third thing that I would like to see is something with the I would like to see tank changes, or something where that, let me just start by saying this. A lot of the times when you do dungeons, players will jetpack through the dungeon. Whether I'm playing tank or not, DPS players are running through the dungeons and just trying to get done with everything super, super quick. And the worst part is they'll just sit there and do nothing, or they'll type and flame people for like fighting through the dungeon. That has to be stopped, or something needs to happen. There needs to be walls that stop these DPS from doing that, to be like, hey, we understand you want to be quick. You know, maybe only put it in matchmaking dungeons. In Party Finder, no walls. Bro, go from start to boss as fast as you can. But for a lot of these new tanks that I see tank, you're taking a lot of the agency of being a tank away because there's so many DPS players jetting through the dungeon. The tank cannot play, the healer cannot heal. New DPS players have no clue what's going on because they've never seen it. And it's just very hectic. People are dying all because one person wants to get to the end of the dungeon super quick. There needs to be something that stops those players. Maybe make it so that the defense of the mob is still super strong. I mean, I'm sorry, not super strong, I'm sorry. The defense of the mob is low. If you cap your gear out, if you're super strong, you pump damage. That's your job. But mobs should probably do increased damage to non-tanks, so that way DPS is going to get freaking slammed up if they decide to just jetpack through the tank. Because a lot of the times when you play, the tank is irrelevant and people just say, I don't need a tank, and just run and do whatever they want to do. The flow of a dungeon should just not be like that. So I think they should add walls, and I think they also need to add like a tank stance similar to Final Fantasy that helps these new tanks or these lower geared tanks maintain aggro. Because a lot of the time, someone will be so high in stats that tanks literally cannot out aggro that, and now you have a DPS taking the boss, and it's rough. I also, last thing, you should have only tanks going to tanks, DPS going to DPS, and healers going to heal. That's it. That's all that needs to happen. A lot of the times DPS will queue for heal just for a faster match, and again, just needs to be some more structure, I think, with it all. But that's like my wish list personally. I would love to see what they do, but that's my wish list. Let's continue.
To help with queue experiences, we introduced a new option to queue for a random dungeon when using party matchmaking, and we made a change to better match players based on their combat power.
Notice that too.
To better align group capabilities. To help with completion rates, we increased the damage and HP buff when queuing through matchmaking to be 10%.
I noticed that. I noticed the upkeep on it.
Up from 5%. All of these changes went live on October 17th. Then, in order to improve the rate in which players can acquire their desired gear, we made another change following the Haunted Harvest Halloween update that provides a bonus reward when queuing for random dungeons.
Right, which I knew they were going to do, I think.
Successful random dungeon completion will reward 1 additional dimensional soul shard, and will also have a chance at a larger reward of 1 dimensional essence. We hope that these changes have had a meaningful impact to your experience with co-op dungeons. We're going to keep monitoring the data, we're going to keep listening to player feedback, and we'll continue to tweak if needed. All right.
I really wish there was more to that, to be honest, but maybe he'll touch on the player behavior next. I don't know, I just really want to see some player behavior change.
Let's talk now about some major systems that players may already be familiar with because of their time playing on the Korean service. In particular, I want to talk about 2 systems, Substance Transformation and the Rune system. And I want to be very clear here. Neither of these systems will launch in our service with their current functionality. We're working closely with NCSoft to make updates, and both systems will be improved in a way that will satisfy both Korean and global users.
That's something that I always tell people, because a lot of people do tell me in my comments or in my Discord, like, hey, the Korea server has this, so we're getting it. Usually different regions do not have 1-to-1 ratio, usually. Usually there's differences in artwork, there's differences in design, there's differences in functionality. You don't have someone on a Korean server usually have the same 1-to-1 ratio of everything that an American server would have. And even sometimes in stuff like, I think within Europe, for this particular game, it's fine. But there are some games that like in Europe play, it's not the same. It's different for each region. So depending on where you are, depending on what game you're playing, there could be some major differences or a very minimal amount of differences. But I'm glad that he spoke on that, because that's something that I get a lot. I'm like, I don't want to be the bad guy, but that doesn't mean we're getting everything they got, you know?
While not all changes are finalized, here are some things I can say for now. For the Rune system, it will have at a minimum the following adjustments. First, Rune slot unlocking will no longer require RNG to obtain your desired slot type. Second, we're introducing a separate rune bag with improved searching capabilities to reduce the burden on your traditional inventory and storage, while also making it easier to find your desired runes. For Substance Transformation, it will at a minimum be changed so that tradable items cannot be used in the system. This means you cannot infinitely buy items from the auction house to feed the system to earn rewards. Since the amount of items that can be fed may be decreased because of this, we're evaluating the requirements of how much has to be fed into the system to gain rewards. Although we don't have any specific changes related to trait resonance at this time, This system is not planned to release in the near future, and we are still actively discussing any potential adjustments for this system with NCSoft prior to its release.
That's cool.
While we're on the topic of upcoming systems, I want to talk about a growing desire from our players to have the ability to engage in more structured PvP outside of the competitive large-scale options currently available in the open world events and conquest battles. I'm happy to say this is something we've had on our radar for a while, and we're excited to bring you a new feature that will come in mid-November that will provide on-demand battle feature.
That's cool.
I don't want to reveal too much yet, but this will allow players to engage in non-competitive PvP across arenas and conquest battles, with varying numbers of teams and team sizes, both in public and private matches.
That's cool.
So stay tuned for more updates about that in the coming weeks. There's been so much great feedback from everyone in the community, both positive comments and suggestions for how to improve the game. Thank you. We're really grateful that you are all this invested in helping us continue to improve the game. We're just getting started, and this week on October 31st, our first player survey will open. You will be able to access it from the Silesium notice board in-game.
Oh yeah.
And I want to really encourage you to
a survey would really help.
We take the results very seriously, and real actions have spawned from all of our previous surveys. We are always listening to your feedback, whether it's through the surveys, reading your reviews on the major gaming platforms, or comments in Discord and social media. We're always using your voice to help guide our development and using it to improve the overall Throne and Liberty experience. So please keep the feedback coming. All right, that brings us to the community question. What we'd really like to know is, what would you like to see changed in Throne and Liberty? Leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Please like and subscribe. That lets us know that you want more of these kinds of videos. We'll read each and every comment, so let us know what you think. I really hope this was informative. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in Silesium.
Let's go. Are we gonna have any like sneak peeks at the end? No, doesn't look like it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like if you want to see more, of course, and subscribe because I will be dropping more. So my final thoughts about this, I actually really like it. Again, I like how transparent they are. And even though some of the things that I want hasn't been addressed, a lot of the things that a lot of the community wanted has been addressed and still are being addressed. And that's the cool part about development. But you also have to understand that your wants and needs might not be what's best for the games. I used to work in gaming, and one of the things that is a staple is that a lot of the players feel like they know what they want, but they don't, and a lot of what they request could harm the game in a way. And so a lot of developers try to think about what you're saying, but they still run these internal tests. They still see how things are going to work before they decide, we'll do it. So as an example, lock timeouts, right? The way that they have their game structured, maybe lock timeouts aren't a good thing for them. The way that the game is structured, maybe a tank stance is not a thing for them. So anytime that I share my opinion or anybody else in the comments shares opinion, be respectful, because it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's just about sharing our ideas and our opinions. So thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. If you want to go to join a guild, of course, Benediction, like I said, Club Poppin is the name. Both will be down in the description below. And until next time, you know what I always say. Thank you guys for doing what? Poppin' often. Well, often.